Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Well, the last step on the car before I get it up onto the rotisserie is perfecting my door gaps. I've been kind of waiting until I have weight onto the car, and as you guys saw in the last episode, we've got the engine in it, we've got the transmission in it, we've got all the weight, or at least the bulk majority of the weight. Obviously it needs an interior, it still needs a few more things, but really the heavy weight's onto the car now. It's sitting at ride height, and until that point your body panels are going to flex just a little bit. Okay, now granted, I went crazy, welded a lot of things solid on this car. There's a pretty good chance it's not going to move at all, but I like to wait until this step in the process before perfecting the body gaps. Now, if you're at any car show, you're driving down the street, you go up to a really badass car that has really shitty gaps, not good. It's a really easy way to spot a bad build is making sure that the body panels line up, or if they don't, you know that there were corners cut and they just didn't take the time to do it right. So today I'm going to unlock a few different cheat codes for you guys. I'm going to show you how to perfect those gaps, and it's really quite simple to do, especially if you have the right tools. So the tool I'm speaking of, Big Kid Blocks. You guys know Bryce Green from Cuda Design. He left quite a while ago and he created his own company, and he came out with a bunch of really good products. One of them is this gapping tool. Okay, so this is a multi-use tool, and I'll show you guys all the different ways that I like to use it. But basically this is 3/16 of an inch wide. 3/16 is a perfect body gap on these older cars. Okay, granted, some of them came from the factory with 1/2 inch gaps in them. I've seen that. I saw that on my Charger. There were some gigantic gaps in that car, but we want things to be nice and clean, the transitions between panels to look good, and of course those beautiful lines of the doors, the trunk, the hood, etc. And to get it perfect takes quite a bit of work. But here's what we're gonna do. So this tool fits in between the body panel. You guys can see here, it's pretty tight on the bottom of the door, okay? And you know, looking at the bottom of the door sill here, I've got a really nice gap. It's actually about 3/16 of an inch, maybe just a little bit shy, but it's very close, and it's parallel with the rocker on the bottom of the car. So I know for sure the door's in the right place. So, you know, these aftermarket panels, granted, they are really nice. They're not always going to be perfect, guys, and you have to take the time to fit them to the car right, and this is one of those steps. So up here towards the top, got a bigger gap. Down here towards the bottom, got a smaller gap. And so what you don't want to do is fill up the gap with filler. A lot of people do that. It's a great way to chip off body filler and chip off your paint and really have to start over, and you're probably going to go back and have to do this right anyways. So we don't want to do that. We want to use a tiny bit of filler here just to refine our edges and to make sure we get good panel transitions, but we're not going to use body filler to fill up this gap and close that 3/16 of an inch. Okay, so the first thing you need to do, guys, is establish your foundational edge. Okay, in this case, we know this door is original. The rear quarters and also the front fenders are aftermarket AMD panels. Again, beautiful panels, everything else, but just the way that they ended up fitting on this car, we've got some work to do here. So once we establish which side is going to be the foundational edge, which in this case, at least on this edge, I'm going to say the door is foundational, meaning I'm going to do modifications on the quarter panel side. Okay, so if it was the other way around, you guys chose that your rear quarters were the foundational side, what you're going to do is you're going to take a grinder, just like this one here, okay, and you're going to grind the edge open. And what you will do is that you're going to split your door skin from the shell of the door. Okay, don't panic, it's really not that big of a deal, but what you're going to do is that you're going to open that up and you're going to start stack and weld on top of each other. In areas where you have a bigger gap like this, the ultimate cheat code is round rod. Okay, so in this case, this is 1/8 inch. You can get this at Home Depot, you can get it at Lowe's or wherever your hardware store is. What you would do is actually weld this to the edge of your panel to add material to it, and then you can grind the shit out of this and not worry about splitting anything. Okay, so, and we may have to do that in some areas depending on how the front fenders, and then also the bottom where it meets the rocker, I want to close that up as well. But if you were going to add material to your door, that's also a way to do it. If it's just a little bit, guys, like, you know, if it's really tight right here, but if there's a little space where we wanted to add some, shoot a couple welds on that, grind it down, and you're going to be right there. But you can use filler rod, you can use round rod, you can use all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, So what I'm going to do in this case is that, because I know for sure the door is for the most part perfect, my rear quarter is going to get cut. And what I'm going to do is find where on the quarter is 3/16 of an inch. Right there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mark on the door here. And I should have mentioned also, you guys can see I have stripped the paint away from the edge. Do not use an abrasive wheel for that. Use a Scotch-Brite, use something that's not going to pull metal off, because all of our grinds are going to be either on the edge of the door skin or on top of the weld that we have right here that we're going to be doing. So I've gone ahead, I've marked off where it is 3/16 of an inch. Okay, and as you guys can see, it's still pretty good through here, but this is where it starts to get a little bit wobbly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 4.5 inch cutoff wheel and I'm going to cut pretty close to where this seam is right here, and we are going to make a nice line all the way up this quarter panel. And what I'm going to do then is shove a screwdriver in it, twist it, and I'm going to push that body gap depending on where it's at, and we are going to completely close off this gap. So up here in spaces where, you know, we are going to have a pretty big gap, we are not going to try to bridge that gap with the welder. Okay, you're going to end up introducing a lot of heat into that panel. So again, going back to the round rod, this is what we're going to end up filling that gap likely with in a couple of places. So enough talking, let's grab the grinding wheel, let's open up this panel, and I'll show you guys kind of how we're going to close this and how to get that perfect 3/16 gap. All right guys, so I've got my door gap looking really good. That tool fits nice and perfect, nice and snug actually. Both sides of it touch all the way up the edges of the door, and again, kind of pushing, prying. You know, down here, for example, like when I cut it once and I bent it over and then it still would not fit in there, I ended up using the grinder again and making another cut in the exact same place, removing more material, pushing it over until it fit. So I've got the bottom side of this completely closed up. Now, you know, a good rule of thumb here, if your round rod is 1/8 inch, for example, if it can fit in there, then it should go in there. If it can't fit, then it shouldn't. So for example, as I move on to these top ones here, you can kind of see here where I've already done one. If it can fit in the gap, you need to fill that gap up. Now, could you bridge across this? Possibly. You're going to introduce a lot more heat into the panel. You stand a greater chance at warping the panels, and also you stand a better chance at burning through and actually expanding what's open right there. So what I like to do, just take your round rod, put it on a magnet like that, put it right there in that hole. And of course I got it in there crooked because I'm recording. There we go, just like that. So you can see it completely fills that gap up, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to weld all the way across the top of that. I'm not going to burn through. I'm going to put a lot less distortion or, you know, really any warping into the panel whatsoever. And yep, just going to bridge the gap, and we're going to do that on all these. Now up here at the top, I might have to use the bigger one, the 1/4 inch one, really for these two spots right here. I had to open those up a little bit more, but that's pretty much the process, guys. It's really, really simple. And as you're gonna see, I'm gonna do the exact same thing on every single panel on the entire car. So it's a lot of work. It does take a lot of time, but man, it already makes a huge difference. And it's gonna make a huge difference when our car is all finished. So let's go ahead and let's get these holes all filled up. All right, guys, so I got super lucky here fitting the fender to the door, and you know, make all your adjustments, get it as close as you possibly can. with your fender adjustment, okay? Try to fit it to the door. Open this all up so that way you can take a nice measurement through here. And even in those tight spots down here that I marked, like even down here towards the bottom, I actually got away with just shaving a touch off this side, a touch off this side. You know, and again, if you're gonna be making huge cuts or huge changes to it, that foundational edge is really key. But in this case, I actually didn't have to split either panel. It perfectly, you can see how tight that is, right? So barely wiggle that thing through there. And it's super tight. And then even down here towards the bottom, I was able to do the exact same thing. Again, beforehand, I could not pass this through here at all. It would get stuck. Basically, I make those blue marks where my tool stops, and then also where it stops coming this way, and then I try to shave in between it. There's one place where I did split, was up here, and again, you're splitting that door skin off of the door shell. So now I'm gonna have to do, and you can see I did up here a little bit too, so I'm gonna shave this back even just a little bit more. We're gonna throw a bunch of tack welds, that is, right on the face of that panel here, and we're gonna shave it back down again, and if we split it again, we'll weld it up, we'll shave it down again, but we want nice, tight fitment through here. I've actually got a pretty decent fitment in here right now, but like I said, we'll open this up quite a bit more and go from there. Also, make sure that your transitions between the two panels is really nice. I need to take actually a slide hammer and pop this corner out just a touch. My corner on the door right here is a little bit too high. This is obviously pushed in a little bit here. You can kind of feel where it rolled the edge over here. So take a slide hammer, we'll give that probably 1 or 2 whacks. Should line up really nice with the edge of the door there. But yeah, let me go ahead, I'll grab the sander, take that back a little bit more, weld it up, and rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And again, this is what it takes if you guys want good gaps like that all the way down every single panel on your car. So again, very happy with it. Alrighty guys, so I've got my doors pretty well set here, at least the fronts and the backs. I am going to address the bottom edge because when you take a step back and you look at it, it looks really tight. Even from down here looking at it, it still looks very tight. But when you get down at the bottom here, you can definitely see the difference in the gap size. Okay, where this tool is tight on both sides there. Okay, oop, maybe I have a little bit more trimming to do right there on the bottom of that. But you can feel the difference here. When that tool can completely wobble like that all the way across there, it really should be fixed. And, you know, again, a matter of perspective. Is anybody ever going to notice that? Probably not, but I want to make sure it's done right. So, you know, on the back side here, you know, I did mention a few different times that foundational edge. You know, if you're going to cut only on the door, you're going to cut only on the fender, the rear quarter here, excuse me. You know, the most important thing is how does it look to your eye, okay? Because when I look at this, it looks pretty badass, and I did make adjustments here on both sides of this. And if it's just a tiny little trim here on the door, you can get away with that without splitting the panel. But if you do split the panel, grab a set of pliers, pinch it up, weld it together, put a little bit more weld in there than what you need. And you guys kind of saw me there on that last, the passenger side fender. I was dragging the tool over the top, and that made sure that it wasn't just falling in there, because if it's falling in there, you need to add more weld because you're going to end up grinding a lot of that away. So looking at the other side here, you know, again, very, very pleased. There is still one adjustment that I have to do. And when you look at this, it looks pretty good. You can see that edge right there. It's actually got like a 45 right there that I'm going to have to address with a file. Just vertically file this. I can't get in there right now. But when you take the tool and you go through here, it gets hung up right there. So we'll just keep that straight up and down. Just grind this corner away just a touch. But the rest of this panel turned out absolutely sweet. And what you don't want is the tool wobbling in there, but you want it to touch both sides and kind of drag through the panel. Oop. It's pretty tight, as you guys can see. So yeah, looking at that all the way down the whole thing, it's really, really good. Now here towards the back side, again, does it look good to the eye? I had to make a cut here, and especially when I got down towards the bottom, I needed even more room than what I thought I did, and I ended up taking some of that off the door. So when you look at it, can you tell? Absolutely not. If you got down, I guess, with a measuring tape and really, really looked at it, after body work, I'd be shocked if somebody ever noticed that. But, you know, making sure that that line's nice and straight, also making sure that you're taking the time to weld very slowly, using some air here to cool the panel down, because if you go blast and weld on this, guys, you are going to hear your panel go boom, and it's going to be warped, and it's going to be a giant pain in the ass to ever bring it back. So, well, from here, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video because I got to get to work. I got to get this thing back onto the ground, wheel it over to the lift, and start dropping things out of it. We've also got to play musical rotisserie here, or musical Mopars, whatever you prefer. Get this charger off the rotisserie onto the wheel dollies that the Cuda was on for a very long time, and then get the Cuda mounted up on there. And again, the blaster is going to be here in less than 24 hours. So I've got my work cut out for me. It's going to be an exciting build, guys. I keep telling you over and over and over, stay tuned. And I'm going to keep pumping out these videos for you guys, keep you up to speed. And this car is going to look so much different in 3 weeks for that car show in Evanston, Wyoming. I cannot wait. So take it easy, guys. I'll see you again real soon.